The call of change. Listen closely, because what I am about to say is not a casual idea. It is a living truth. There comes a moment in every person's life when the world as they have known it begins to tremble. It is not always dramatic. It is not always visible to others. But deep within, something begins to whisper. This is not the end of your story. A greater life is calling you. Some of you feel it now. A restlessness, a stirring that makes ordinary days feel heavier. Conversations seem dull, and the life you have lived up until this point somehow feels too small for the spirit that inhabits you. That restlessness is not a curse. It is the first signal of transformation. It is life itself knocking at the door of your heart, asking you to awaken. Imagine standing at the edge of a vast ocean at dawn. The sky is streaked with gold and crimson, and the waves are lapping gently at your feet. Behind you is everything familiar. Your old life, your past mistakes, your disappointments, your victories, your stories. Before you lies the open horizon, limitless and unknown. And at that edge, life whispers. Will you step into what you cannot yet see? That is where true change begins. You may have been taught to believe that change comes from the outside, from opportunity, from luck, from timing. But the truth is deeper, more astonishing, and more personal. Change begins the moment you accept that the power to create is already within you. Not tomorrow, not someday, now. Let me tell you a story. A man once lived in a small house on the edge of a village. Every day he looked out at the same hills, the same sky, the same dusty road. He believed his life was fixed, that the world had already written his fate, and so he lived quietly, resigned, half asleep. But one evening, he dreamt of walking those hills, and in his dream he saw a great city beyond them. Vivid lights, new faces, endless possibilities. When he awoke, the vision burned in his heart. He could no longer pretend that his life was only what he saw. He had glimpsed something great, and so he made a choice to follow that inner vision, though he did not yet know the way. That single decision changed everything, for the city he once thought distant was, in truth, already inside him. The same is true for you. The life you are yearning for is not separate from you. It is not waiting in some distant place or future. It exists now, in the unseen, waiting for you to claim it, through your imagination, through your faith, through the assumptions you dare to live by. But here is the challenge. Most people never answer the call. They hear the whisper, they feel the restlessness, but they turn back to the familiar. They convince themselves that change is impossible, that destiny has already spoken, and so they remain locked in the patterns of yesterday, painting the same picture over and over on the canvas of their lives. Yet the moment you realize you are the painter and not the painting, the author and not just the character, everything shifts. The old patterns lose their grip. The question is no longer, can I change? The question becomes, am I willing to live as though change is already mine? Let me ask you directly, if tonight you closed your eyes and dared to imagine the most extraordinary version of yourself, the one who has already risen beyond your fears, your doubts, your limitations, what would that self look like? What would they feel? How would they walk, speak, love, and create? Can you see them? Can you sense the life they are living? That is not fantasy. That is the seed of your new reality. Think of the oak tree hidden in an acorn. At first glance, the acorn looks small, insignificant, fragile. Yet within it is a blueprint of towering strength and beauty. The oak is not somewhere far away. It is already encoded in the seed. The moment it is planted and nurtured, it begins to unfold. Likewise, the life you long for is not separate from you. It is already encoded within your imagination. When you dare to believe in it, to assume it, to live from it, the universe itself conspires to bring it forth. But you must plant the seed. You must give life to the vision by claiming it as your own, even before the world reflects. This is the law. What you assume to be true becomes your experience. If you assume you are powerless, life will echo your assumption. If you assume you are destined for greatness, life will arrange itself to confirm it. The choice is yours. And so, standing here at the beginning of this journey, I tell you, you are not here by chance. This moment has found you because you are ready. The fact that these words resonate within you means the seed has already been planted. The only question is whether you will water it with faith or let it wither through doubt. Change is not waiting on the world. It is waiting on you. And if you would dare, even for a moment, to see yourself as greater than your current circumstances, you will feel the ground shift beneath your feet. You will discover that what once seemed impossible is only the old echo of a belief you no longer need to carry. So I say to you, listen not with your ears alone, but with your spirit. For what is being offered is not merely words, but a key that can unlock the life you have been seeking, the life you secretly know belongs to you. Take hold of it. Imagine boldly, assume faithfully, step into the end as if it were already yours. And as you do, remember this truth: the life you are seeking is also seeking you. That is why you are here. That is why you cannot look away. That is why your heart is beating faster even now. This is your moment of awakening. Carry this thought with you as we continue. The world outside is only the shadow of the world within. If you would change your life, you must first change the vision you hold of yourself. For when the inner man awakens, the outer world cannot help but follow. And so we stand at the threshold. You have heard the call. You have felt the stirring. The question that remains, the one only you can answer, is this: will you step forward into the life that is waiting, or will you turn back to the familiar? That answer will shape everything that follows.
2. The birthplace of reality. Do you realize that every single event of your life, every triumph and every disappointment, first began as a quiet thought? Before it became visible, before it had ever touched the material world, it lived inside your imagination. The world you see around you is not the cause, it is the effect. The true birthplace of reality is within you. Picture yourself holding a lantern in a dark cavern. At first, all you can see is the rough stone wall immediately before you. But as you lift the light higher, new passageways are revealed, hidden chambers open, and the cavern expands before your eyes. That lantern is your imagination. The cavern is your life. What you dare to illumine within will eventually become the path beneath your feet. Most people walk through life with their lantern dim, convinced that what they see is all that exists. They repeat the same routines, carry the same beliefs, and live inside the narrow corridors of their past assumptions. But within each of us lies an untouched chamber of possibility, waiting to be discovered. The imagination is the key, and what you dare to accept as real in that inner world must eventually echo into the outer one. Let me tell you a simple story. A young woman once sat in a small room with nothing but a notebook and a pen. Around her, life seemed heavy. Bills stacked on the table, the phone silent, opportunities scarce. But instead of bowing to despair, she opened the notebook and wrote in vivid detail the life she longed to live. The home, the work, the relationships, the feeling of joy upon waking each morning. She wrote it as though it were already true. Each night she read those words before sleep, and each morning she carried the feeling of them as if her day were already filled with that reality. Months later, the circumstances of her life began to shift. One by one, the very scenes she had written appeared, not by chance, not by luck, but by the quiet law that the inner life always precedes the outer. Now, why is this so? Because the imagination is not a fantasy. It is not pretend. It is the creative center of your being. Every structure you see, the buildings, the technology, the art, the music, once lived only in the unseen. Someone dared to hold it in imagination long before it touched the senses. If this is true of inventions and creations, why would it not be true of your own destiny? But here lies the challenge. Many have been conditioned to dismiss the imagination, to call it childish, unrealistic, or foolish. They believe only what their eyes can verify, only what their hands can touch. And so they live within the narrow cage of what has already been proven. Yet life does not expand by clinging to the proven. It expands when someone dares to believe in what is not yet visible. Think of the farmer. He does not wait to see the tree before planting the seed. He knows that the unseen seed contains the entire harvest. He places it into the soil, waters it, trusts it, and gives it time. In the same way, your inner vision is a seed. If you plant it faithfully in the soil of imagination, nourish it with belief, and persist despite appearances, it must grow. The law does not fail. So I ask you, what seeds are you planting today? What silent conversations are you holding with yourself in the privacy of your mind? For every inner word is a seed. If your inner speech is filled with fear, doubt, and limitation, those seeds will grow into experiences that match them. But if your inner speech is filled with confidence, gratitude, and vision, then life will reflect that back to you. This is why you must become watchful,
not of the world outside, but of the world within. Guard your imagination as a sacred garden. Refuse to allow weeds of doubt and despair to overrun it. Choose instead to plant images of the life you desire, and live as though they are already sprouting. For the unseen world is not future. It is now. You carry the blueprint of your life within you this very moment. Let me give you another picture. Imagine an architect who draws a blueprint for a house. At the moment he completes the drawing, the house does not yet stand in brick and stone, but in truth it already exists. The builder will follow that blueprint exactly, and in time the house will rise. Your imagination is the architect. Your outer life is the builder, and the blueprint you draw inwardly, whether consciously or unconsciously, will be the structure you one day inhabit. The danger is that most people do not draw deliberately. They allow their minds to be shaped by fear, by memory, by the opinions of others. They accept shadows as though they were truth. Then they wonder why their lives appear as endless repetitions of old patterns. But the moment you claim authorship of your inner blueprint, the repetition ends. You are no longer a passive tenant. You are the designer. So hear me clearly. Do not wait for the world to give you permission to imagine boldly. Do not wait for circumstances to reassure you that change is possible. Begin now. Close your eyes and see the life you long for. Feel it with such intensity that it becomes more real to you than the chair you sit on. Speak from it, walk in it, sleep in it. For when the inner life becomes vivid, the outer life must eventually bend to reflect it. Some may say, but what if I fail? What if I imagine and nothing happens? To them I say, every moment you imagine, something is already happening. You are shaping currents that the world will one day reveal. Nothing imagined with conviction is lost. The harvest may not appear overnight, but it is certain. The farmer does not dig up the seed each morning to check its progress. He trusts the law of growth. So too must you. And here is a secret. The act of imagining itself transforms you, even before the outer world reflects it. When you dwell on the image of your fulfilled desire, you begin to walk differently, speak differently, think differently. The world cannot resist responding to that shift, for the outer is only ever a mirror of the inner. So let this truth settle deep within you. Your life is not bound by circumstance, but by imagination. What you dare to accept as true inwardly, life must echo outwardly. If you would change your world, change the blueprint you carry inside. Carry this thought into your heart. As we prepare to go deeper, you are not here to beg for change or wait for chance. You are here to awaken to the realization that the power to create lies already within you, in the secret chamber of imagination. And when you discover how to live from that inner world with unwavering faith, you will unlock doors that no man can shut. Closing transition thought. In the next step, we will uncover how to take the images born in imagination and clothe them with living faith, so they become more than visions, they become the very substance of your life.
3. The alchemy of faith. There is a bridge every soul must cross, and that bridge is faith. Imagination gives birth to vision, but without faith, the vision remains a shadow. Faith is the breath that animates the image, the pulse that turns possibility into inevitability. Without it, the seed of imagination lies dormant, but with it, the smallest seed becomes a towering tree. Think of a sculptor who has carved a magnificent figure from marble. The form is there, hidden in the stone, waiting to be revealed. He does not swing his chisel at random. He strikes with faith that each movement brings the vision closer to reality. So too must you hold faith as the chisel that reveals the life concealed within you. Every assumption, every belief, every inner declaration is a stroke of that chisel shaping your destiny. But what is faith? Truly, it is not blind hope. It is not wishing. Faith is the inner knowing that what you have imagined is already yours, though your senses have not yet confirmed it. Faith is the boldness to act, think and live as though the unseen is more real than the seen. Imagine standing before a barren field. The soil is dry, the horizon empty. To the eye there is no harvest. Yet a farmer scatters seed across the land, waters it and waits, not with doubt but with certainty. Why? Because he knows the law. He knows that within the seed lies the future harvest, and that the soil cannot refuse it. That is faith. To hold unwavering confidence that the unseen contains the visible, that the invisible life already pulses within the seed. In the same way, your imagination is the seed and faith is the soil in which it grows. You may not yet see the fruits, but if you continue to water your inner vision with conviction, the harvest will come. Let me tell you a story. A man once stood at the edge of despair. His life seemed broken. No work, no purpose, no hope. Yet within him burned the image of something greater. A life of abundance, of freedom, of joy. Each night before sleep, he surrendered to that vision. He would close his eyes and feel the reality of it. Walking through its rooms, speaking from its fulfillment. By day, though the outer world mocked him, he chose to carry the inner conviction that it was already his. Others laughed, saying he was deluded, but he held his ground. Then one day, opportunities opened like doors swinging wide. People he had never met appeared to assist him. The outer world, which once seemed hostile, began to shape itself around the vision he had faithfully held. His secret was not luck. It was faith, the alchemy that transforms unseen thought into visible fact. So I ask you, what unseen image are you willing to trust with your whole being? What dream would you dare to live from, even if the world gave you no evidence of it yet? For faith does not wait for proof. Faith itself is the proof. It is the inner assurance that bends reality. Consider the bridge again. On one side is your current life, the circumstances you can see and touch. On the other side is the life you have imagined, the fulfillment of your deepest desire. Between them lies the gap, the chasm of the unknown. Many stand trembling at the edge, unwilling to cross. They want certainty first, evidence first, manifestation first, but the bridge does not appear until they take the step. Faith is that step. It is the act of walking into the unseen, knowing the ground will rise to meet your feet. There will be moments when doubts rise like shadows, whispering that you are foolish, that nothing is changing. But listen, doubt is only the echo of your old self, the voice of yesterday trying to keep you bound. You need not wrestle with it. Simply turn your gaze back to the vision and walk forward in faith. For faith is not a battle with doubt. It is a refusal to let doubt dictate your story. Here is a truth you must hold. The outer world is always delayed. It is a mirror, and mirrors reflect only what already exists. When you live in faith, you are creating a new inner image. The world may not show it instantly, but it must in time reveal it. Just as a planted seed does not burst through the soil the next day, so too your vision requires time. But faith does not count days. Faith already lives in the end, and therefore the harvest is assured. Some might say, but I have tried, and nothing has happened. To them I say, then you did not live in faith, you lived in hope. Hope looks to the future, but faith claims the present. Hope says, one day it will come. Faith says, it is already mine. That is the difference. And when you make that shift, life itself bends to your conviction. Think again of the sculptor. He does not stand before the block of marble, wishing for the figure to appear. He sees it already there, concealed but complete. Every strike of the chisel is guided by that unseen form. Your faith must be the same. Do not look at your circumstances as unshaped stone. See the finished figure within, and let every thought, every word, every action be a strike that reveals it. Let this truth sink deeply. Faith is not a tool you pick up when convenient. It is the very air of creation. Without it, imagination lies idle. With it, imagination becomes flesh. Faith is the invisible bridge that carries you from desire to fulfillment. And so, standing here in this moment, I ask you, will you dare to believe in the life you have imagined? Will you step onto the bridge, not waiting for it to appear, but trusting that it exists beneath your feet? For the life you seek is already alive within you, waiting only for the breath of faith to bring it forth. Closing transition thought. In the next stage, we will uncover the secret of living in the end, how to inhabit your desire so completely that the world has no choice but to mirror it back to you. Living in the end. Close your eyes for a moment and ask yourself this question. What if my desire were already fulfilled? What if I stood right now in the life I have longed for? How would I feel? How would I breathe? How would I breathe? How would I carry myself through the world? This is the great secret. The key to manifestation is not to wait for the world to change, but to inhabit the change within yourself first. To live as though the end has already arrived. To feel the victory before it has been declared. To rejoice before the harvest has broken through the soil. Most people live in the not yet. They say, one day when I have the job, the relationship, the freedom, the wealth, then I will feel secure, happy, grateful. But in doing so, they postpone life. They chain their emotions to circumstances that have not yet unfolded. And because they wait, they remain waiting. The outer world cannot give what the inner world refuses to feel. Living in the end reverses this pattern. It declares, I will not wait for proof. I will be the proof. It is stepping into the state of fulfillment now, even when the senses show you nothing. It is planting your flag on the mountaintop of victory. While your feet are still in the valley, it is the audacity to declare, I am. When the world insists, you are not. Let me give you an image. A young actor once walked through the streets of a city with empty pockets. No stage, no audience, but each night in the solitude of his room, he lived in the end. He bowed to imaginary applause. He felt the weight of success in his bones. He carried himself as though the role was already his. In time, the world caught up. The opportunities appeared. The doors opened. The applause became real. But the truth is this. He had already received it inwardly long before it arrived outwardly. This is the mystery of creation. The end contains the beginning. Just as the oak tree exists within the acorn, your fulfilled desire exists within you now. When you dare to assume the end, you awaken that hidden reality and draw it into visibility. Now you may ask, but how can I live in the end when my senses scream otherwise? How can I feel abundance when the bills pile high? How can I feel loved when loneliness weighs heavy? The answer is this. You do not wait for the senses to grant permission. The senses are delayed reflections, mirrors of what you have already impressed with it. To live in the end is to refuse to be governed by appearances. It is to claim your freedom inwardly, and by claiming it to force the outer mirror to adjust. Think of a man lost in a desert, parched and weary. If he allows his senses to dictate, he sees only sand, feels only thirst. But if he allows his imagination to dominate, he can drink from the inner well, he can feel refreshment now. And as strange as it may seem, it is this inner act that leads him to the oasis. So here is the practice. Each night before you close your eyes, step into the end. Construct the scene that would follow your fulfillment. If your desire were already realized, what moment would naturally unfold? Would you be writing a letter of gratitude? Would you be celebrating with loved ones? Would you be drifting to sleep with peace in your heart? Choose the simplest, most natural scene, and then step into it as though it were real. Do not see yourself watching it from afar. Be in it. Hear the sounds, feel the textures, breathe the air of that world. Let it be so vivid that the boundary between imagination and reality dissolves. And then drift into sleep with that feeling alive in you. Sleep as the person you wish to be. Wake as the person you wish to be. Walk as the person you wish to be. This is living in the end. Some will say, but isn't that pretending? No, pretending is knowing something is false while acting as though it is true. Living in the end is knowing something is true though the senses have not yet confirmed it. That distinction changes everything. When you live in the end, you cease begging life to change. You cease pleading with the world to rearrange itself for your happiness. Instead, you declare, it is already done. I live from it now, and the world, like a faithful servant, follows your command. Consider the play performed upon a stage. The actor knows the final scene long before the first line is spoken. He carries the certainty of the ending through every act. So too must you live. Carry the assurance of the fulfilled desire, and let that assurance shape your every thought and action. This is why living in the end is the most powerful practice. It anchors you beyond circumstance. It places you in the reality of your choosing, where no opposition, no delay, no appearance can shake you. When you live in the end, you rise above time itself. You cease waiting for tomorrow is already here within you. Let me tell you another story. A woman desired healing, but her body gave her only pain. Each morning she rose with heaviness. Each night she went to bed in despair. But one evening she made a choice. She would live in the end. She closed her eyes and imagined herself walking freely, laughing, breathing deeply, her body light and whole. She felt the freedom as if it were true in that very moment. Each night she repeated it. Each day she walked with that inner joy, and slowly, the body followed. Her health returned, and the outer world mirrored the wholeness she had already claimed. The lesson is this. Nothing is withheld from the one who dares to live in the end. The world is only a mirror, and the mirror cannot resist a new image once it has been impressed upon it. So I ask you now, what end will you dare to inhabit? What reality will you choose to claim as already yours? Do not wait for permission. Do not wait for evidence. Step into the end now, and watch as the world bends to your conviction. Closing transition thought. In the next section we will uncover how to persist in the assumption, how to hold firm in your inner conviction,
when the outer world seems to resist, until life itself surrenders to your vision. 5. The power of persistence. There comes a moment after you have dared to live in the end, when the world will test you. The shadows will rise, the evidence will appear against you, and everything around you will whisper, "It is not working." But hear me clearly, this is the very moment where creation is decided. Not by what you see, but by whether you persist. Imagine a seed buried deep in the soil. For weeks, perhaps months, nothing appears above ground. To the eye, the seed is dead. To the impatient, it seems nothing will come. But within the darkness, in silence, life is stirring. Roots are digging deep, strength is forming, and in time the green shoot breaks through the earth. If you abandon your faith in that period of invisibility, you abandon the harvest that was already yours. So it is with every desire you hold. The unseen is working on your behalf, but it requires your steadfastness. The greatest force you can wield is persistence, the refusal to be moved by appearances, the inner commitment that says, "I will not let go of my vision until it breathes in my world." Think of persistence as the furnace in which imagination is forged into reality. Without it, the fire flickers and dies. With it, the flame burns until the world itself bows to your conviction. Many people fail, not because their desire was impossible, but because they abandoned it too soon. They planted the seed and then dug it up, doubting its power. They shifted their focus when the first obstacle appeared. They allowed the senses to dictate reality, forgetting that the senses are always late, always the last to know. Persistence means standing in the storm without fear. When the winds howl and the skies darken, you hold your vision steady. You walk as though the sun is already shining. You know that no storm is permanent, and beyond the clouds the light has never ceased to shine. Let me give you a story. A man once dreamed of freedom from financial struggle. He imagined abundance. He lived in the end. He carried himself as prosperous. But soon, bills grew larger. Debts pressed harder, and every outer sign told him to surrender his dream. Yet he persisted. Each night he returned to the feeling of freedom. Each day he walked, as though lack had no power over him. Months passed, and still he held firm. Then, as if by unseen orchestration, opportunities arrived, doors opened, and his financial life was transformed. The abundance did not come because of outer effort alone. It came because persistence would not allow the vision to die. This is why persistence is not mere stubbornness. It is faith in action. It is the inner knowing that truth will always outlast illusion. The outer world may shake, but the inner conviction remains immovable. How do you persist? You return again and again to the feeling of the wish fulfilled. Each time doubt arises, you gently shift your attention back to the end you have chosen. Each time fear whispers, you silence it with the conviction of your inner reality. You refuse to rehearse failure in your mind. You refuse to bow to appearances. Instead, you re-enter the scene of fulfillment until it feels natural, until it feels inevitable. Persistence is not straining. It is not force. It is quiet confidence, the calm certainty that says, "This is mine. It is done." It is like a river carving its way through rock, not by violence, but by constancy. Over time, nothing can withstand it. Now let us be honest. Persistence will often be uncomfortable. The world will tempt you with evidence of lack. People may laugh at your vision. Circumstances may appear to grow worse before they grow better. But understand this. The resistance is not proof of failure. It is proof of progress. The moment you begin to shift inwardly, the old patterns resist. The old world shakes. Do not mistake the shaking for collapse. It is transformation. When a building is torn down to make way for something greater, the rubble is messy, the site is chaotic, but only through that tearing down can the new structure rise. So too, when your old self dissolves and your new state emerges, life may seem unsettled. Persist. Hold your inner image steady, and soon the new world will stand where the old once did. Think of persistence as loyalty to your future self. You are not loyal to circumstances. You are not loyal to appearances. You are loyal to the version of you that already exists in imagination. You stand by them, you walk with them, until they are no longer imagination but reality. Here is a practice. When doubts arise, do not fight them. Fighting only gives them strength. Instead, Return softly to the end. Like a mother soothing a restless child, bring your mind back to the vision with gentleness. Whisper inwardly, it is done. It is mine. I am already there. This is persistence, not force, but faith. And remember, persistence does not mean you never waver. Even the strongest heart trembles at times. What matters is that you always return. Each return strengthens your conviction. Each return deepens your faith, until the state of fulfillment becomes your dwelling place. The truth is simple. Reality belongs to the one who refuses to let go, not to the clever, not to the strong, but to the one who persists when others surrender, the one who remains unmoved, even when the evidence screams otherwise. So I ask you now, what dream have you abandoned too soon? What seed have you dug up in impatience? What vision did you release because the storm grew heavy? Reclaim it. Persist. Stand by it until the world has no choice but to reveal it. For the outer world is a mirror, and the mirror cannot resist your persistence. Keep pressing the image upon it, and eventually it will reflect what you have held so faithfully within. Closing transition thought. In the next section, we will explore the sacred relationship between imagination and emotion, how the power of feeling shapes the unseen into form, and why your heart's atmosphere is the true architect of destiny. 6. The alchemy of feeling. There is a golden key, hidden in plain sight, that turns imagination into reality. Feeling. Without it, your visions remain as distant clouds drifting across the sky. With it, those same clouds condense, take shape, and rain blessings into your life. Ask yourself this. What is the difference between a passing daydream and a creation that reshapes your world? The difference is that one remains a thought and the other is clothed with emotion, wrapped in the living energy of feeling. Thought alone is a sketch, a blueprint, a shadow on the wall. Feeling is the fire that breathes life into it. It is the breath of spirit, the heartbeat of imagination. Whatever you feel with conviction, you invite into existence. Picture a painter standing before a canvas. With mere outlines, the image is flat, lifeless. But when the painter dips the brush into color, when emotion enters the stroke, the image awakens. In the same way, your imagination without feeling is only an outline. But add the brushstrokes of emotion, joy, relief, gratitude, love, and suddenly, the canvas of life responds. Have you noticed how the memory of a deep sorrow can make you cry years later? Or how recalling a moment of triumph can cause your chest to rise with pride even now? That is the power of feeling. It transcends time. It pulls what is absent into the present. It summons what is not yet visible into the immediacy of now. Here lies the alchemy. When you imagine your desire fulfilled and feel the reality of it, your body, your mind, your very spirit align with that unseen state. The world cannot resist, for it is compelled to reflect what you sustain within yourself. Many make the mistake of trying to think their way into change. They repeat affirmations mechanically. They picture outcomes without ever entering them emotionally. They paint the outline but never touch the canvas with color. And then they wonder why nothing shifts. But when you enter into the end with feeling, everything changes. Close your eyes and imagine holding the key to your new home. Don't merely think of it. Feel the cool metal in your hand. Hear the click of the lock. Sense the warmth of belonging as you step inside. Imagine embracing the loved one you long for, not as a wish, but as though it is happening now. Feel the weight of their arms around you, the softness of their voice, the reality of their presence. This is not idle fantasy. It is creation in motion. For the secret is this. The subconscious does not respond to words alone. It responds to feeling. It takes the emotional atmosphere you sustain and shapes the outer world to match it. If you live in the atmosphere of lack, no matter what words you speak, the world mirrors lack. But if you live in the atmosphere of fulfillment, no matter what the outer world shows, it must in time align with your inner state. Consider a garden. The soil does not question what seed you plant. It does not argue. It does not reason. It simply accepts and produces. If you plant seeds of sorrow through fear and doubt, the soil gives you sorrow. If you plant seeds of joy through faith and gratitude, the soil gives you joy. Feeling is the seed, and life is the soil. Whatever you plant, it will multiply. Now let me tell you something you may have overlooked. Feeling is not something you wait for. It is something you choose. You do not need the world to give you joy before you feel it. You do not need the relationship to arrive before you feel love. You do not need the promotion before you feel success. If you wait, you remain trapped in a cycle of lack. But if you dare to feel it now, the world must follow. A man once longed for healing. For years he lived in the atmosphere of illness, waiting for change before allowing himself peace. But the moment he shifted inwardly, imagining himself whole, walking in freedom, feeling the vitality as if it already pulsed through him, his life began to transform. The body, responding to the new atmosphere, aligned with the feeling. This was not a miracle, it was law. This law is impersonal. It does not judge whether your feeling is positive or negative. It simply multiplies what you sustain. This is why you must guard your inner atmosphere with care. When you feel bitterness, life reflects bitterness. When you feel fear, life amplifies fear. But when you nurture the feeling of fulfillment, the world bends to reveal it. So I ask you, what atmosphere are you breathing in right now? What feeling are you clothing your imagination with? Do you dare to feel abundance before the bank account reflects? Do you dare to feel love before another person affirms it? Do you dare to feel victorious when all evidence screams defeat? This is the path of creation. And understand this. Feeling is not force. You do not strain to create emotion. Instead, you gently relax into the scene of fulfillment until the emotion rises naturally. When you imagine holding your desire as already yours, a quiet joy will surface, a soft relief, a peace that whispers, "It is done." That is the alchemy. That is the vibration that reshapes the invisible and the visible alike. Here is a simple practice. Tonight, before you sleep, close your eyes and step into the end. Don't just think about it, walk in it, touch it, feel it, allow the warmth of completion to saturate you. Drift into sleep carrying that feeling, and you will water the seed in the richest soil of consciousness, night after night. This practice will root the vision until it flowers. Never underestimate the subtlety of this law. You may feel a small ripple of gratitude, a slight sigh of relief, a spark of joy, and that tiny flame, if sustained, will become a roaring fire that transforms your life. Remember this truth. Life does not give you what you want. Life gives you what you feel yourself to be. Closing transition thought. In the next section we will journey deeper into the sacred silence, discovering how stillness is not emptiness, but the divine workshop, where imagination and feeling fuse into creation. 7. The silence that creates. There is a language beyond words, a power beyond noise, a place within you where worlds are shaped in stillness. That place is silence, and it is here, in the sacred quiet of your own being, that creation begins. When was the last time you allowed yourself to truly be still? Not the stillness of an empty room, but the stillness where even your restless thoughts bow, where the noise of worry fades, and you stand face to face with your own infinite self. This silence is not void, it is fullness. It is the womb of creation, rich with possibility, humming with unseen power. Imagine the night sky, the stars dazzle, the moon glows, but what holds them all is the vast silence of space. Without that silence there would be no stars, no galaxies, no worlds. Silence is not absence. It is the foundation upon which everything rests. So too with your life. If you can master silence, you can master creation. You see, the world is addicted to noise. People rush from one distraction to another, filling every empty moment with chatter, music, or the endless scroll of images. But noise scatters your energy. It dilutes your power. Only in silence does your focus gather into a beam strong enough to pierce the veil of appearances. There is a story of a man who longed for guidance. He searched everywhere, books, teachers, voices, signs, but nothing satisfied him. One night, weary of searching, he sat in silence. He stopped asking, stopped striving, stopped seeking. In the stillness, a whisper rose from within, not in words but in knowing. And in that moment he realized the answer had been waiting inside him all along. Silence had unlocked it. Why is silence so powerful? Because in silence you withdraw from the illusion of separation. You step back from the outer drama and return to the source. In silence you are no longer entangled in the noise of fear, the clamor of doubt, the arguments of reason. In silence imagination and feeling fuse. In silence you become one with the state you seek. And what you unite with inwardly must reflect outwardly. Think of a sculptor. The hammer and chisel make sound, but the true vision of the sculpture is born in the silent mind of the artist. The action only gives form to what silence has already decided. Your life is the same. The outer actions are only the chiseling, But the vision, the masterpiece, is shaped in silence. Now silence is not always comfortable. When you first turn inward, you may hear the noise you tried to escape. The mind chatters, the body fidgets, the doubts clamor for attention. But if you persist, if you sit long enough, the noise will quiet. It is like a storm at sea. At first the waves crash, the wind howls. But beneath the surface the deep waters remain still. Sink deeper, and you will find that depth. Silence is also the bridge to faith. For faith is not noisy. It does not beg or plead. Faith is quiet assurance, calm knowing, a stillness that says, it is done. When you sit in silence and dwell in the end, you are no longer asking, you are receiving, you are no longer striving. You are resting in completion. Try this tonight. Before you sleep, lie still and close your eyes. Do not ask for what you desire. Instead, in silence, imagine yourself already in possession of it. Feel the quiet joy, the soft relief, the peace that says, it is here. Then let that silence carry you into sleep. You will discover that silence speaks louder than any words. This is why the most powerful prayers are silent. They are not cries for help but inner acts of assumption. They are not filled with words but with states of being. In silence you assume the feeling of the wish fulfilled, and in silence it takes root. Look around at nature and you will see this truth. Does the seed shout as it grows? Does the sun roar as it rises? Does the tree cry out as it stretches upward? No, all creation unfolds in silence. Life's greatest miracles happen quietly. And so it is with you. Your transformation will not be born in noise but in the sacred stillness within. Do not fear silence. Embrace it. For in silence you meet yourself. In silence you discover that the power you sought outside was always inside. And in silence you awaken to the truth that the world is but an echo of your inner state. So when doubt rises, be silent. When fear knocks, be silent. When the world shouts its contradictions, retreat into silence. Let silence remind you of who you are and what you have already created within. Remember this, silence is not weakness, it is mastery. It is the strength to withdraw from appearances and rest in truth. It is the womb from which new realities are born. Closing transition thought. In the next section we will explore the unseen law of assumption. How living as if your desire is already fulfilled bends time, reshapes circumstances, and calls the invisible into visible form. 8. The doorway of faith. Have you ever stood before a closed door, trembling with uncertainty, unsure of what lies on the other side? That door is life itself. Each day you are presented with countless doors, opportunities, choices, possibilities, and most people never step through them, for they are paralyzed by doubt. But I tell you, every closed door is already open to the one who dares to imagine it so. Faith is not knocking timidly, faith is walking through boldly, with the inner knowing that what you seek is already yours. Life does not yield its treasures to hesitation. It yields to conviction, to the unwavering belief that you are already standing in the room of your desire, even when your eyes still see the hallway of lack. Faith is not blind. Faith sees deeper than sight. Faith is the vision of the soul, perceiving what the senses cannot yet register. When you learn to walk by this inner light, your world begins to reorganize itself in ways that others call miracles, but to you feel as natural as breathing. Consider this. A farmer does not bury seeds and then stare anxiously at the soil, doubting whether anything will grow. He knows the harvest is inevitable, though unseen. He waters, he waits. He trusts. The unseen law of life is at work beneath the surface. In the same way, every thought of faith you plant in the fertile soil of imagination must yield fruit in its season. Yet many abandon their vision because they cannot see the first sprout. They walk away from the garden of their own creation before the fruit has had time to ripen. You must understand, faith is not passive. It is active participation in the unseen. It is to live, move, and breathe as though your desire were already fulfilled. If you seek love, you must walk in the vibration of being loved. If you desire abundance, you must clothe yourself in the feeling of wealth. If you long for healing, you must rest in the assurance that wholeness already flows through you. This is not pretending, it is aligning with the deeper truth of who you are. Faith whispers to you. What you seek is already seeking you. Doubt shouts. What if it never comes? Which voice will you give power to? The one you entertain will sculpt your reality. Faith builds bridges over impossible waters, while doubt builds walls that imprison you. The choice is yours, every single moment. Let me tell you a story. A man stood before a locked gate. Everyone around him said, "It cannot be opened." They turned back defeated because the key was nowhere in sight. But he chose to believe differently. He placed his hand on the gate, imagining that it was already swinging wide. To the amazement of all, the lock clicked and the door opened. He had carried the true key all along, his faith. And so do you. Do not underestimate the quiet force of conviction. The world outside is a mirror. It reflects your inner stance. If you face life with trembling uncertainty, it mirrors hesitation. But when you stand tall, convinced that the unseen is more real than the seen, the mirror shifts and reality bends to meet your inner decree. The door that seemed sealed forever suddenly moves, not because the door changed, but because you did. Remember this. Faith is not waiting for proof. It is being the proof. It is walking as though the unseen were visible. It is smiling when the evidence of the senses says you should weep. It is celebrating victory while the battle still appears to rage. Such faith is not foolishness. It is power in its purest form. So I ask you now, which doors in your life have you been afraid to open? Which opportunities have you abandoned because doubt held you hostage? Stop waiting for permission from the world outside. For the only permission you need comes from within. Dare to act from faith. Dare to think from the end, not toward it. Dare to step through the invisible door that your imagination alone can perceive. And when you do, life will meet you on the other side. Not with reluctance, but with joy, as though it had been waiting for you all along. The treasures of existence are not hidden from you. They are hidden for you, waiting for the moment you dare to claim them. Carry this truth with you. Faith is the doorway. Your imagination is the key. Your conviction is the hand that turns the lock. And once you step through, you will see with your own eyes what your soul already knew. There are no closed doors in life, only unopened ones. Now let us walk through the next door together. For beyond this lies an even greater revelation, the secret of persistence, the unwavering ability to remain faithful until the unseen becomes the seen. 9. The power of persistence. Have you ever watched a river carve its way through stone? At first glance, the stone appears immovable, eternal, unyielding. And yet, drop by drop, wave by wave, the river triumphs not through sudden force, but through quiet persistence. The water never questions whether it will succeed. It simply continues to flow, certain of its destiny. So it is with your imagination. If you persist in holding to your inner vision, no matter how solid the obstacles appear, life itself must yield. The tragedy of most lives is not that people aim too high and miss, but that they aim once and give up. They try on Monday, doubt by Tuesday, and abandon the dream by Wednesday. They look at the outer world for proof, not realizing that the outer world is but a delayed reflection of their inner stance. Imagine planting a seed and digging it up every day to check its progress. Would anything ever grow? Persistence is planting the seed and trusting the invisible process until the harvest is ready. Persistence is the furnace in which desire is forged into reality. Without it, dreams remain fragile whispers, easily scattered by the winds of doubt. With it, dreams become inevitability. Consider a sculptor chiseling away at a block of marble. The first strike does not reveal the statue, nor does the second. Yet with each deliberate motion, the invisible form takes shape. Only the sculptor sees it in his mind. But through persistence, what was once formless stone becomes undeniable beauty. Your imagination is the chisel, and your persistence is the hand that wields it. But here is the truth most refuse to accept. Persistence is not hard work in the outer world. It is constancy in the inner world. It is not the frantic doing that exhausts the body, but the steady being that transforms reality. To persist means to feel again and again that your desire is already fulfilled. When doubt whispers, you return to the state of knowing. When the world contradicts you, you choose to look with inner eyes. Persistence is loyalty to your unseen reality, even when your senses scream otherwise. Let me offer you a story. A woman desired a home of her own, though she lived in lack and uncertainty. Every night before sleep, she walked through her dream home in imagination. She touched the walls, smelled the fresh wood, felt the keys in her hand. Weeks passed, then months. Outwardly, nothing seemed to change. Friends laughed at her fantasy, yet she persisted. And one day circumstances aligned so unexpectedly that she found herself standing in the very house she had imagined. Not because of chance, but because she refused to abandon her inner vision. Persistence is not glamorous. It is quiet, unseen, often lonely, but it is also unstoppable. The world eventually bows to the one who refuses to waver. The mountain moves, not because of force, but because persistence makes it inevitable. You are not called to struggle against the outer. You are called to remain faithful to the inner. That is the true work of persistence. Understand this.
The outer world will always test your resolve. It will tempt you with appearances, with delays, with contradictions. These are not punishments, but invitations. They ask you, do you truly believe? Most retreat. Few endure, yet those few reshape the world. For persistence is the language by which the unseen speaks into form. When you persist, you align yourself with the rhythm of creation itself. The sun does not rise once and quit. It rises every day. The heart does not beat once and rest. It beats endlessly. Creation is persistence. To live in harmony with it, you must mirror its constancy. Desire is the seed. Imagination is the soil. Faith is the water. But persistence is the sun that never ceases to shine. Without it, the seed cannot grow. With it, nothing can stop the harvest. So I ask you now, what have you given up too soon? Which vision did you abandon at the first sign of resistance? Which dream lies buried? Not because it was impossible, but because you grew impatient. Pick it up again. Water it with faith. Feed it with imagination. Guard it with persistence. Life will test you, yes, but it only ever tests to reveal your strength. There will come a day when you look back on every delay, every obstacle, and see that they were not barriers but stepping stones. For each time you chose persistence over surrender, you were shaping yourself into the very being who could receive the promise. The dream is not only about the destination, it is about the transformation you undergo through persistence. So do not abandon your vision. Do not let appearances dictate your faith. Do not let impatience rob you of what is already yours. Stand firm. Remain faithful. And you will discover a truth greater than all the doubts in the world. Persistence always wins. Carry this thought into your heart. Every time you return to the feeling of the wish fulfilled, you are chiseling away at the stone of limitation. Each act of persistence brings you closer to the masterpiece already hidden within you. And now, having learned the secret of persistence, let us step into the next revelation, the sacred art of surrender, where you discover that once you have persisted faithfully, you must release your grasp and allow life itself to deliver the promise. 10. The art of surrender. There comes a moment in every journey when the hardest act is the most powerful. Letting go. Surrender is not weakness, it is mastery. It is the knowing that you have done everything within your power, and now you release the outcome to the universe, confident that it is already yours. Imagine holding a bird in your hands. If you squeeze too tightly, it cannot fly. But if you open your hands, letting go, it soars freely. Your desires are like that bird. They respond to your release, not your grip. Many confuse surrender with giving up. But surrender is not resignation. It is the final act of faith. You have imagined, you have felt, you have persisted. You have walked through unseen doors, endured storms, and nurtured the seed of your vision. Now comes the sacred pause, where you stop struggling and allow life itself to complete the creation. This pause is not empty. It is fertile. In surrender, the invisible flows into form, effortlessly. Consider the ocean. Its waves rise and fall with rhythm and grace. It does not control the tide. It does not fight against the wind, and yet it moves with unstoppable power. Surrender is like the ocean. It yields to the currents of life, while guiding them from within. When you surrender, you align yourself with the natural flow of creation, and what once seemed impossible begins to manifest with grace. Let me tell you a story. A man had dreamed for years of success that eluded him. He worked tirelessly, persisted faithfully, yet the outer world refused to bend. One night, weary and disheartened, he sat quietly and let go. Not from despair, but from trust. In that stillness, a solution appeared. Opportunities aligned and doors opened that had previously seemed sealed. Surrender had not weakened him. It had invited the invisible to move on his behalf. Surrender is also the release of time. Many live in anxiety, fearing that their desire has been delayed or lost. But time is a human measure, not a divine law. The universe operates on a rhythm beyond the clock, beyond impatience. When you surrender, you step out of time, allowing the perfect moment to arrive. You create an inner space where the wish fulfilled can enter without resistance. The art of surrender is deeply practical. Each day, take moments to release control over outcome. When you imagine your desire fulfilled, do so fully, but then breathe, relax, and let life carry it forward. Do not second guess. Do not push. Do not bargain. Trust that the inner work you have done, the imagining, the feeling, the persistence is sufficient. Your responsibility is to align. Life's responsibility is to manifest. Surrender also teaches humility and courage simultaneously. Humility because you recognize that life is a collaborative act with forces beyond sight. Courage Because letting go requires trust in yourself, in your vision, and in the unseen law of creation. It is not passive waiting. It is active alignment. You move as if the desire is already yours, and yet you relinquish the need to force it. This is the paradox of mastery. Think of a musician playing a delicate instrument. He must practice diligently, strike each note precisely, and yet, in performance, he must release himself to the music. Only in surrender does the melody soar. The same applies to life. You practice in imagination, persist in faith, and then surrender to the rhythm of reality, letting the world resonate with the song you have already composed within. Many fear surrender because it feels like losing control. But true control lies not in holding tightly to outcomes, but in cultivating an inner state that cannot be shaken. When you surrender, you are not powerless, you are sovereign. You move freely, knowing the unseen law is at work. You create without struggle, you live without desperation, and you allow life to reflect the reality you have sustained inwardly. And here is the final truth. The moment of surrender is the moment of manifestation. Often the thing you have longed for appears the instant you stop gripping, the instant you trust, the instant you let life move as it will. Do not misunderstand this. Manifestation is not a reward for patience. It is the natural consequence of alignment, feeling, persistence, and finally, the universe is a faithful servant, bringing into form what the mind has imagined, what the heart has felt, and what the soul has trusted enough to surrender. So I leave you with this. Live as if your desire is already fulfilled. Persist with unwavering faith. And finally, let go. Let go of doubt. Let go of fear. Let go of appearances that contradict your inner vision. In surrender you find freedom. In surrender you discover power. And in surrender you witness the miraculous unfolding of your own creation. Every act of imagination, every beat of persistence, every breath of faith has led you to this moment. And now, you rise above struggle, above uncertainty, above the constraints of time. You exist in the state of the fulfilled wish, open-handed, open-hearted, ready to receive. This is the art of surrender, the final key that transforms longing into reality, thought into form, and dream into life itself. Carry this with you always. When you surrender, you do not relinquish power, you embrace. The universe conspires, life responds, and your inner vision, held faithfully, becomes undeniable reality. Step forward and live in the air. You are now equipped not merely to dream but to create, to manifest, and to live as the proof of the infinite power within. Your life is no longer a wish. It is a living reality.